The Giants' major trade acquisition, Rafael Devers, has yet to get it going at the plate, and he's beating himself up. Literally.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and RotoGraphs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already. And please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And coming up on today's show, we are going to get into how Rafael Devers has struggled, which, you know, for him, he's been about mediocre offensively, and that's struggling for him. And he's beating himself up. And like I said, literally beating himself up in the dugout. Also, how about Justin Verlander looking better than he's looked in a Giants uniform by far, I thought. And yet the Giants lost 13-0 in that game. Wow. And then finally, we welcome and preview the Dodgers coming into town for the first time in 2025. And it's just a huge series, the final series before the All-Star break. So all of that coming up on today's show. And the first thing I want to get into is, in fact, Rafael Devers and just what he's done so far with the Giants and how he was seen on camera. I don't think he knew he was on camera. It was one of those shots, I believe it was taken from like up the first base line. So opposite line, Giants are on the third base side with their dugout. So it wasn't like the camera in the dugout was pointed right at him and he was just putting on a show. This camera captured him in the dugout after his third at-bat yesterday, when his first three went double play in the first inning, strikeout on 3 pitches in his second at-bat, and then in his third at-bat, just a weak ground ball. So that's largely what we've seen from Devers, is either a strikeout or a ground ball to the right side, or like a weak tapper that is fielded by like the pitcher. We've seen that over and over again. And the shot in the dugout, to me, was encouraging as we learn about Rafael Devers, because there was a lot of propaganda and slander coming out of Boston on his way out, including from guys like David Ortiz. There's an article by Susan Slusser, kind of fittingly timed, talking about Devers. She interviewed him. I don't know exactly when the interview took place, because he seemed happy and go-lucky in the interview, and he discusses playing first base, which is something we talked about yesterday, how there was that Will Clark stuff that I thought was kind of a non-story, and yet it kind of was a headline on NBC Sports Bay Area, so we'll address that. But anyway, the shot of him in the dugout, if you missed this, he was talking to himself / yelling at himself for an extended period of time. Like, we're not just talking about a few words. He was seen just having a full-on stern conversation with himself in the Giants dugout. And it culminated with him kind of, if you're on YouTube, you can see this, but like hitting himself on the side of the head. I see my video is lagging a bit. I have no idea why. I've tried to figure that out. I'm sorry if that's a distraction. But anyway, he smacked himself on the side of the head with both palms open, both sides of the head. So clearly frustrated. And to me, I like to see that from a player of this caliber. Like, some of the stuff coming out of Boston was like he didn't care. He was a bad teammate. he was a clubhouse cancer, all that kind of stuff. But also there were contrary reports to that, and the Giants did their homework, and Buster Posey said that's not at all what he's heard about Devers. And so we're learning him. Like I know of Rafi Devers, of course, but I haven't watched him play on a day-to-day basis, especially with him being in the American League East, And so to see how much this is grinding on him is, to me, a good sign. And you look at the overall numbers, they're still excellent. We just didn't get to witness the excellent part yet. He's hitting on the season .261, which would be his lowest batting average since 2018 when he was 21 years old, by the way. So I expect that to go up, although projection systems have it at about that's where he will end up. But still has a 388 on base, which is outstanding, thanks to a 16.3% walk rate, which is outstanding, and a 472 slugging. So overall, it's 37% above average offensively, which is kind of right in line with what you would expect from Devers. We just didn't witness or experience the hot part yet. And so I've reached out to Gabby from Locked On Red Sox to ask, is he known as a streaky player? Because I want to know this. And so I'll let you know maybe during this episode if she got back to me. But with the Giants, Devers has just been 4% above average offensively. When he came over here, he was on the season 46% above average offensively. So, it's a 42-point drop from what he had done with the Red Sox in 73 games, 334 plate appearances, versus what he's done with the Giants in 22 games, almost 100 plate appearances, 96 to be exact. With the Red Sox, this year he struck out 22.8% of the time, and with the Giants he struck out 32.3% of the time. So a major increase. That's like a 50% increase in strikeout rate. 10 percentage points, roughly. And I'm just trying to see, like, the power has just not been as good. The launch angle is down, a lot of ground balls. And so, yeah, it's just largely been a struggle. And to see him so angry at himself, I actually thought was a good sign, because the man cares. And also, we've seen him, like when Patrick Bailey hit his walk-off 3-run inside the park homer. I mean, Devers was just right there with a big smile on his face, clapping his hands. So just, Buster Posey said this about Willy Adames. He said 2 words, be patient. And I would say the same with Rafi Devers. Like, he has just always been a monster with the bat, and there's just not a lot of reason to think he's just suddenly forgotten how to hit when you're talking about a 22-game sample. I mentioned with the Red Sox, his strikeout rate this year was just 22.8%, which is pretty modest for a guy who hits with so much power. Normally power guys do strike out a fair amount, but that's a pretty low number, about league average. But that's after he started the year with Boston 0 for 19 with 15 strikeouts. I know I've said that a bunch, but it's just an astonishingly bad stretch. And then the fact that he overcame that and ended up with a low strikeout rate and just monstrous offensive numbers shows me that at least this year he has been streaky, because we've seen a bad streak. They had a bad streak. He had a bad streak in Boston to start the year, and in between, he was a monster. So I think eventually we will get that, and it's just a matter of time. And Devers himself certainly believes in his ability. So coming up in just a minute, Susan Slusser talks to Rafi Devers. What did he have to say about first base, the second half, his performance, all of that? Coming up in just a minute. And before we get into it, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, maybe a Devers jersey, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. For me, the being able to see the view from the seats in the app before I buy so I know exactly where I'll be is game changing, especially when I've been out on the road or I'm in a new venue like a concert or something like that. So just take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the comments from Rafael Devers, courtesy of Susan Slusser. Thanks again for making Locked on Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we'll be doing our last mailbag before the All-Star break. It's been a while since we've done one. I suppose there are going to be a lot of questions about the trade deadline, which is understandable. And so we'll be taking those down, but it's not going to be all about trades. So if you have any non-trade related questions, I will be taking those as well, because we'll have time to do more mailbags as the trade deadline gets closer. So anyway, Susan Slusser of the San Francisco Chronicle wrote a piece called "New Giant Rafael Devers Turns the Page on Boston, Excited for Second Half in SF." And all of his quotes are via interpreter Erwin Higueros. And Devers said, "This is baseball. This is the easy part. It's very easy to make friends. It's very easy to get along with everybody. The best thing is just to go ahead and get to know everybody." So that's kind of his mindset of being traded and being on the Giants. And then Slusser talks about the difficulty of the ballpark. I'm amazed at how many times journalists have asked him about the ballpark, and he continues to just give the same answer. They asked him like 3 times in the introductory press conference. They asked him in the locker room after games. Like he just keeps getting asked about the ballpark, and he keeps giving the same answer. So it's a little weird to me. But we've got another one. Slusser asks him about the ballpark and how difficult it is for lefties other than Bonds. And she says those numbers for lefties at Oracle don't concern Devers in the least. Devers says, quote, "I know the kind of player I am. I know I have power, and the minute that I make good contact, the ball is going to just go out. Eventually, I'm going to be myself." So and I mean, this lines up with what we've seen. It's not like he's driving balls deep into right center field and they're getting caught on the warning track in Triples Alley. He's just not hitting the ball very well most of the time. So he says, eventually I'm going to be myself. And so that's an admission that he's just not been himself. And that's what I've seen for sure. So of his experience playing with the Giants so far, Devers said, "I really like the ballpark, especially the fans. Having a lot of fans at the stadium and they're all cheering for the team, it kind of motivates you to do better." So that's the thing. Carlos Rodon famously said that Giants fans, Yankees fans are better because they'll boo you or something to that effect. Well, I think Devers, having played in Boston and witnessed how harsh the media can be, how harsh perhaps the fans can be, whereas we're kind of a different breed here in San Francisco. Like, it takes us a long time to kind of turn on a player, if that ever happens at all. And so, it takes a big amount of frustration for us to do that. And so I think Devers is appreciating the atmosphere. And it's been, I think, the fans with Buster Posey at the helm and the overall season that they've been able to put together so far, and the fact that they've gone out and got players like Devers and signed Willy Adames and locked up Matt Chapman and all that. has made fans satisfied for the first time in a long time, and Devers is getting to experience that. And there have been big crowds. That's one thing we haven't talked much about this year, but lately they're getting like 40,000 fans a game. I mean, that's what it was this last series, and it's definitely going to be sold out for every Dodgers game, I would imagine. Hopefully fewer Dodgers fans than we've seen the last several years, and more Giants fans. So Slusser writes, and this is exactly what I said yesterday, with Will Clark going off about how Devers no-showed for well, I shouldn't say going off because I didn't actually listen to the clip because I didn't think it was worth listening to, because we keep seeing from reporters and hearing from Devers and hearing from people like Bob Melvin that Devers is going to play first. And so for Will Clark to say what he said, like, I don't think it matters. Like, he's going to do it. And so anyway, about playing first, he says he has yet to be at full health, but with groin and back issues, he says that have not affected his swing, but have slowed him on the bases. He said, quote, "The difference when you're 100% healthy is then I can run. I can go first to third. I can score on a double. There are so many things I can do when I'm healthy." And so again, the first game he played with the Giants, he kind of settled in with a double on a ball into triples alley, and I was like, look, you got to take third there. But no, he's not just being lazy. He's got some nagging tightness you definitely don't want him getting hurt. And so I understand him taking it easy with his body when he's dealing with this. So it's probably a good thing that he's not going to go to the All-Star game. He would have been voted in as the starting DH in the American League, but that those votes didn't transfer over when he came to the Giants. So regarding first base, it said even with the minor maladies like the injuries that he's going through, Devers is continuing to work out at first base and this is Slusser speaking, could play the position sometime after the All-Star break. It's not easy to learn a new position on the fly during the season. Devers played third for the Red Sox until this year, and his reluctance to shift to first there after the season had started is what made him available to the Giants on the trade market. And then Slusser correctly points out he took a lot of flack in Boston for declining to play first after he had already moved to DH. Hall of Famer David Ortiz, a Red Sox icon and someone Devers considers a friend, hammered him after the deal, including saying on Instagram, quote, "The Red Sox didn't disrespect Devers. He disrespected himself. He comes to spring training out of shape and being the third baseman with the worst defense. They sign a Gold Glove, and he won't accept another position." So before I break down those comments again, I want to point out that Slusser says another Red Sox Hall of Famer, Pedro Martinez, came to Devers' defense in the wake of Ortiz's comments, saying, quote, "I was shocked by the deal because if you try to sell to me, knowing Rafi Devers, that Rafi is a bad teammate or he's not a team player, you're lying." And so that's dramatic in Boston. You've got two legends kind of with conflicting sides of the story here. And I do believe Ortiz is like a paid member of the Red Sox organization in some sort of advisory / whatever role, like pay on their payroll. And I don't think Pedro Martinez is. So that's worth pointing out. I'm not positive about that. Anyway, Devers took the high road here. He didn't want to speak bad about Ortiz. He said, "I have nothing to say about him. I respect him. I love him. He's one that likes to express his opinions, and I respect that, but I have nothing to say." So you've got the 28-year-old being more mature than the retired Hall of Famer here, in my opinion. And Slusser opines that Devers should be decent at first after playing third for so long. I tend to agree. And Devers has been working with Giants coaches and talking to teammates Wilmer Flores and Dom Smith. He's eager to spend time with former Giants Gold Glove winning first baseman Will Clark and JT Snow whenever possible. And he said, quote, "Whoever wants to help me, I'm willing to listen," end quote. And then of the team in general, Devers said, quote, "We have a great bullpen. We have great starters. Everything is very positive here. Everyone is very happy. It's amazing how happy everyone is. Everyone gets along. I definitely see that we're going to do a lot of damage once the second half starts." So the only thing missing is a little bit of health, the time when he finally is able to play first, and then a hot streak with the bat. Like, the attitude, there's nothing that I've seen that speaks to him having any kind of attitude issue at all, despite what David Ortiz said. I really ought to watch that Will Clark clip, and I will. I got into it yesterday, but basically my understanding is that this was when the Red Sox were in town, and he didn't take batting practice either, so he didn't want to be on the field while the Red Sox were out there, is kind of my understanding of the situation. So he's saying different things to Slusser here, and also, why would he be saying he will play first and I'll do whatever the manager wants if he actually wouldn't? And so I guess time will tell, but there's no reason to think that this isn't going to happen. We've heard it from Posey, we've heard it from Melvin, we've heard it from Devers. As soon as he's able, I think we're going to see him at first. And so anyway, he's beating himself up, so let's not add more stress to him and continue to cheer him on. And I'll get back to you about what the host of Locked On Red Sox said about whether or not he was known as a streaky player. Next, though, we're going to get into Justin Verlander looking really good yesterday, and the Giants still losing 13-0, and the Dodgers coming into town for a huge series at Oracle Park. We'll get into it in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait around? Nope, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more, "Who's handling this?" And the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Giants listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, here we go. We are going to get into Justin Verlander finally looking excellent, and yet the Giants losing 13-0. How is that even possible? And the Dodgers coming into Oracle Park for the first time in 2025 in mid-July. Come on, the last series of the All-Star break. That's crazy. So I want to confirm that that's correct. Like, that doesn't even, they were at the Dodgers in mid-June. And besides that was the only series they've played against LA, and they lost 2 out of 3. So yeah, Dodgers coming in for the first time this season. But first I want to get to Justin Verlander, who looked really good. I mean, the first several innings of that start yesterday were outstanding. I mean, I'm going to pull up the box score, and sfgiants.com now makes it difficult to do things like that. They don't even have it. It's hard to find. Okay, so in the game, Verlander went 6, allowed 2 earned runs, 4 runs, 7 strikeouts, no walks. He did allow a homer. He did give up 7 hits. Tristan Beck, 6 earned runs in a third of an inning. And Mike Yastrzemski pitched. It was just a blowout. But For Verlander, I'm going to give you some quotes here from Verlander, Bob Melvin, and also how about Bryce Harper on Verlander. So Maria Guardado of sfgiants.com wrote that Verlander topped out at 96.9 miles an hour while walking none, striking out 7, generating 16 swinging strikes, his second most in a single start in 2025. Verlander said, quote, "That was the first time I kind of walked out of an outing and was like, I feel like I can get some people out consistently with that stuff." And I would agree. Like, curveball was big, slider was sharp, fastball was lively. If he has that the rest of the way, I figure he will have some success. And he said, I think one of the things that I've just kind of really been harping on is I feel like hitters have been seeing the ball a little early on me. I think my arm is a little late, dragging. I kind of just had this thought a couple of days ago just to kind of force the issue a little bit, just to get it out, get it kind of down where it used to be. It felt good to play in catch play, and I carried it into the game today. I think immediately the results were great. So yeah, quite optimistic. Verlander said, "I've been searching a lot. It's been difficult. I've been working my butt off, but I'm optimistic that hopefully this mechanical fix is the one that kind of propels me into a good second half." So Bryce Harper noticed the same thing and said, quote, "After that first at bat, we all came into the dugout going, oh crap. He had some stuff today, man. That curveball looked good. The changeup, obviously, and the heater was 97. I mean, he threw a couple in to Schwarber in that first at bat, and I was thinking in the on-deck circle, man, this could be a long day. Then I punched out in the first at bat, and I thought it could be." So the opposing player, they don't often comment on the pitcher like that, but Verlander was nasty early on. I just really thought it could be a good day for the Giants, but it didn't turn out that way. Bob Melvin said the same, essentially. He said, "I thought it was his best stuff of the year by a pretty good margin. We just didn't play well behind him, and we didn't score many runs." And that's kind of been a theme when he's pitched. But I thought his breaking ball was really good. His heater was good. It's too bad. He ends up giving up, only 2 earned runs? But we just don't do enough for him we don't do enough for him today on either side of the ball. Like I said, he pitched well. So I agree. I mean, they were sloppy defensively and they didn't hit, and it ended up being a blowout. But if he can have that stuff and he's got this extended time off now with the All-Star break, then maybe, just maybe, there's better things in store for Verlander in the second half of the season. Forget the wins. I mean, he cares about it. The team cares about it. But like pitcher wins, they just need him to help the team win in his starts. And if he can throw like that, then he can help them win. So he's also a trade candidate, potentially. Like if the Giants want to incorporate some younger pitchers like Carson Whisenhunt, but also Whisenhunt could replace a guy like Hayden Birdsong, who's been struggling out of the rotation. And they also probably don't want to work these young players too hard in seasons in which they're going to potentially top out by far in terms of how many innings they've ever thrown in a season. So there's that to consider as well when it comes to, is Verlander a trade candidate? Probably not for that reason. So anyway, 3 games against the Dodgers. Giants come in 51-43, 5 games back of LA. The Dodgers notably have lost 6 games in a row coming into the series. They're 23-21 on the road and just 20-22 against teams that are 500 or better. So it's not been the greatest of seasons for the Dodgers. They've allowed 70 more runs than the Giants, but they've also scored 116 more runs than the Giants. So Giants will have to hit and pitch. Dodgers are good, even though they've lost 6 straight. So anyway, Giants are 5 back. So there's 4 possible outcomes going into the break. They could either they could sweep, they could go 2-1, they could go 1-2, or they could get swept. And if the Giants sweep, they'll be 54-43, 11 games over 500 on a 90.2 win pace and 2 games back in the division. If they win 2 out of 3, they'll be 9 over 500, 88.5 win pace, 4 back in the division. If they lose 2 out of 3, they'll be 7 games over 500, 86.8 win pace, and 6 back in the division. And if they get swept, they'll be just 5 games over 500 on an 85 win pace and 8 back in the division. So you could be from 2 back to 8 back in the division based on this series alone. That's kind of just how crazy it is when you go head to head against the team that you're directly behind. And they could be anywhere from 5 games over 500 to 11 games over 500. And it's always interesting to me that there's only, not every number is possible. You'll either be 11, 9, 7, or 5 games over 500, and you'll either be 2, 4, 6, or 8 games back. So, and your pace will be anywhere from 85.2 wins to 90.2 wins entering the All-Star break. So regardless, if you can go 1-2, you obviously wouldn't feel great about that, but just picking up a win, I think, you would have a 500 homestand against two of the best teams in the National League. And if you can win the series, win 2 out of 3, be on an 88.5 win pace, 9 games over 500, and just 4 back in the division. Otherwise, you're 6 back or more. So it's a big series. A lot, hinges on this series in terms of where the Giants will stand entering the quote-unquote second half of the season, even though we will be 97 games in. They're 94 games in now, and this will be 97 once the series wraps up. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thanks in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.